Welcome to the July edition of What's in Bloom at the Ruth Bancroft Garden. Every month we put together an assortment of plants that are in bloom in that particular month, and we print that out as a sheet and give it to our garden visitors. So we're going to walk you through the things that are on the July What's in Bloom. So first we start off with Hesperaloe Sandia Glow. So Hesperaloes are plants from the southwest United States and northern Mexico. And this is a hybrid from Mountain States Nursery in Arizona, and notable for the bright red color of its bell-like flowers. Hesperaloe Sandia Glow. Summertime is agave time here at the Ruth Bancroft Garden, and this is really one of the more dramatic ones, Agave franzosinii. It has an Italian name because it was described from a plant in an Italian garden, presumably originally from Mexico, but we don't know exactly where. The very tall inflorescence is all the way up, but the flowers are not quite open. We'll be starting any day now. But Agave franzosinii is one that Ruth got right at the beginning of the garden and has always been a dramatic presence for us. And you can see just how tall that flower stalk is. Agave franzosinii. Brachychiton is a genus of trees from Australia, and they're now placed in the Malvaceae, or the hibiscus family, but they used to be in a separate family, and that's the Sterculiaceae, and that entire family got swallowed by the Malvaceae. So the tree above me is Brachychiton acerifolius x discolor, or discolor x acerifolius. It's a hybrid between two different species, and it eventually gets to be a fairly large tree, to about 50 feet, and it has wonderful flowers that are fuzzy and brown on the outside and bubblegum pink on the inside. And it oftentimes loses its leaves before flowering. So it really lost a lot of leaves a month ago, and now it's putting on flowers and will be doing so for quite some time. Brachychiton discolor x acerifolius. The genus Puya is part of the bromeliad family, and they come from South America. Basically, their range follows the Andes, from Chile and Argentina in the south up to Colombia in the north. And this one here is Puya coerulea variety Monteroana, one of the Chilean species. The stalks are pink or red, and then the flowers themselves are a wonderful purple color, almost fading to blue-black. Long and tubular because they're pollinated by hummingbirds who insert their beaks into the flowers. Puya coerulea variety Monteroana. California has many species of Eriogonium. These are in the family Polygonaceae, and they're known as buckwheat. And one of the largest is this one, Eriogonium giganteum, native to the Channel Islands off the coast of Southern California. It has these flat-topped heads of white or very, very pale pink flowers in large numbers during the summertime, very attractive to bees. Eriogonium giganteum, also known as St. Catherine's lace. We looked at Agave franzosinii, which is one of the huge century plants. This one here is Agave Parasana, much more modest in size. And so its flower stalk has an unusual habit too. It starts coming up in the fall of one year and goes up to a certain point, in this case it was about here, and then stops and waits out the winter, resuming growth the following spring in making the floral branches and the flowers. And so that's what it's doing now, Agave Parasana, and it comes from Coahuila in northern Mexico. Aloe is a large genus in the asphodel family, and perhaps best known for aloe vera because of its fame as a medicinal plant. But there are many, many species that are only grown for ornamental purposes and not for medicinal purposes. And while a lot of those are from Africa, there are some from Arabia as well, including this one, Aloe Vranosai. It's really notable for its flowers that have a tuft of hairs at the tip of each flower and that catch the light so beautifully, and not very commonly seen in cultivation. We have both a red flowered form and a yellow flowered form, and while they're coming into flower, they're really not quite open yet, but we'll find pictures of open flowers to show you. Aloe Vranosai from Yemen. This wonderful silvery bush here is called Leucophyta Brownie Eye from Australia. It is in the Compositae or the daisy family, but the flowers are very tiny and inconspicuous. But the whole plant makes a wonderful silvery dome and is a dramatic plant in the garden. It doesn't really live all that long, but definitely worth having for that amazing effect that it has. Leucophyta Brownie Eye. This is a hybrid aloe, Aloe pearsonii x distans. Both parents are from western South Africa in the winter rainfall zone, but from very different environments. The mother, Aloe pearsonii, comes from the far northwest of South Africa, where it's very dry, only 5 inches of rain a year. And the other parent, Aloe distans, from much farther south, nearer to Cape Town. Aloe distans, it creeps along the ground and has a very different growth habit. Pearsonii is a much sought after aloe because of its way the leaves turn red and it's hard to find plant. And I thought to cross it with Aloe distans to get something easier to grow that would do well here, and this is the result. It's doing exactly what I wanted it to, growing upright, having colorful leaves, and really flowering beautifully. This is the best it's ever flowered. There is a sibling of this that I sent to the Huntington, and they gave it the name Aloe Hellskloof Bells. So that is the one that's in cultivation in horticulture, but this is one of its siblings grown right here at the Bancroft garden. Aloe pearsonii x distans. This is another of the large growing agaves, and a very famous one too, Agave tequilana, the agave from which tequila is made. It comes from the state of Jalisco in Mexico, and you really don't get to see it in flower that often. When they grow it to make tequila, they cut down the plant before the flowers ever come out in order to get the sugars out of the middle to ferment into tequila or to distill into tequila. But when you let it bloom, it really does make a very dramatic, tall inflorescence with greenish yellow flowers. And then, of course, it dies afterwards, as agaves do. But really making a wonderful show while it's in flower, Agave tequilana. Aloeogony is a genus of shrubs from Australia in the Malvaceae, or the hibiscus family. And this one is Aloeogony hawkeifolia with very finely dissected leaves, giving it a fine textured, airy look. And the flowers are pale yellow, not really open at this time of the day yet, but very hibiscus-like if you see them when they're open. This is the yellow flowered form. There's also a form with lavender flowers, which is perhaps more commonly seen, but both are beautiful. Aloeogony hawkeifolia. Scabiosas are known as pincushions, and they belong to the family Caprifoliaceae. This one is a Mediterranean native, Scabiosa ochroluca from the Mediterranean area, and it flowers with these little heads of flowers over a long period in the summertime. And the flowers are not quite white, a little bit of yellow in there too, but really very attractive over a long period. Scabiosa ochroluca. Here we have a plant in the pea family, Erythrina bidwillii. It's actually a hybrid. Erythrinas occur in many parts of the world, but some of them from the Americas. And this is a hybrid between one from North America and one from South America. It has these wonderful wands of red flowers all summer long and into the fall, and then it dies back in the wintertime. We cut it completely to the ground in December, and then it comes back and does this again every year. Erythrina bidwillii. Dazzlerion is a genus in the Nolanaceae, or Nolina family, and there really are only a couple of them that you see in horticulture. There's Dazzlerion wheeleri that has strap-like bluish leaves with sawtooth edges, and there's Dazzlerion longissimum that has needle-like green leaves. And this one is neither of those. This is a plant we got from the International Succulent Institute in Orinda, and it was from Mexico, but without a name. They're not that easy to identify because there is no book published on them. But in any case, this one has strap-like leaves like wheeleri, but they're green rather than blue. And they have these wonderful little tufts at the tip of each leaf where the leaf shreds and makes an interesting texture. and they send up these tall wands of flowers, very teeny tiny flowers, and very attractive to bees. All Nolinas and Dazzlerians have separate male and female plants, and this one is a male. If it were a female, we could expect seeds from it, but since it's a male, we won't get seeds from it, but still the bees come to visit it because of the pollen on it. The farthest left wand there has not come into flower yet, and these two that are in flower are constantly visited by bees. Dazzlerian species from Mexico. The tree above me is Chelopsis linearis, commonly called the desert willow, but it's not a true willow. It's actually in the trumpet vine family and has beautiful lavender pink flowers with a little yellow in the throat. In the summertime and into the fall, it makes unbelievable numbers of flowers every year. In the wintertime, the leaves drop, but even then, the tree is wonderful because the sinuous branches make a wonderful silhouette against the sky. This is a tree from the southwestern United States and northern Mexico and grows very well in a dry garden like ours. Chelopsis linearis. The genus Hesperaloe belongs to the agave family, related to the yuccas and the agaves, and they come from northern Mexico and up into Texas in the United States. There's really only one species that's common in cultivation, and that's Hesperaloe parviflora. It has pinkish red flowers, and the flowers look somewhat aloe-like, and hence the name Hesperaloe. But there are other species that have a different flowering habit, and this one, Hesperaloe nocturna, is night flowering, the name Nocturna referring to that. And so its flowers are white, because white is what shows up at night. So a very different look in terms of its flower, but the leaves are similar, long sword-like leaves with curling threads at the margins of the leaves. Hesperaloe nocturna is an easy plant to grow, doesn't require much water, and is cold tolerant down to the low 20s. Hesperaloe nocturna. Here we have another agave, Agave multifilifera. It comes from northwestern Mexico, also known as Agave filifera subspecies multifilifera. We have Agave filifera itself as well here in the garden, but this one really has a much stouter stalk and a taller stalk and many more flowers on it. It's in full bloom now, working its way up from the bottom up towards the top, which is lost up in the tree there somewhere. And there are just thousands and thousands of flowers on that stalk, and being visited by bees who are getting the nectar out of the flowers as well as the pollen. Agave multifilifera is a cold-tolerant plant because it comes from the mountains on the border between Chihuahua and Sonora, and so it can even get snowfall in its habitat in the mountains of Mexico. This is the first time we've ever flowered it here at the Bancroft Garden, and we're really very happy with how beautiful it is. Agave multifilifera. Gasterias are South African plants in the family Asphodelaceae, close relatives of the aloes. And this is Gasteria excelsa, which is the largest of all the gasterias. It comes from near Grahamstown in South Africa's Eastern Cape province. It flowers in the summertime with a well-branched inflorescence and lots of little dangling flowers that are pale pink with a green mouth. Gasteria excelsa. Echeverias are plants in the stonecrop family and mostly Mexican in origin, although there are some that go all the way down to South America. They're very popular with fanciers of succulent plants because of their beautiful rosettes of leaves and attractive flowers. And this one is Echeveria conte, and it comes from central Mexico. And it's really very localized plant and habitat, but with these beautiful powdery leaves. And here we see it in flower. So the flowers are orange on the inside, but dusted with powder on the outside. And they're always in the summertime and just coming into flower now. Echeveria conte is really a relatively recently described species. It was originally considered a form of Echeveria subbrigida, but really a spectacular plant, and we have a lot of it planted here at the Bancroft Garden because we find those powdery rosettes and orangey flowers so attractive. Echeveria conte. The genus Sinningia belongs to the Gesneriad family. That's the family to which the African violets belong. And we don't have very many of them here at the Ruth Bancroft Garden because a lot of them are too tropical for us. But here's one that's in flower now and doing very well for us, and that's Sinningia Shelby. It's a hybrid of two South American species and has these wonderful tubular pink flowers and crinkly green leaves, and then underground a big tuber. Sinningia Shelby. Grevillea is a large genus in the Protea family from Australia, and there are many wonderful species, but more and more hybrids. The hybridizers have been hard at work on these, and this is a relatively newly introduced one, Grevillea King's Fire, named after Kings Park near Perth in Western Australia. And these wands of sort of scarlet or orangey red flowers are on the bush for most of the year. It's really a spectacular plant that just never seems to want to stop blooming. Grevillea King's Fire. That brings us to the end of this month's What's in Bloom. But remember, there are many, many plants in the garden that don't last for a whole month, or that straddle between one month and another, that don't make it under What's in Bloom. So there's always something special to see if you come here and visit the garden for yourself. There are wonderful plants in bloom all year round, and in the summertime a lot of things like agaves, and in the wintertime things like aloes, but something for every season here at the Ruth Bancroft Garden.